A very great morning and good to have you today that you're joining this conversation. Now, PDM has participated in a number of budget influencing activities, including development of position papers. The discussions on agroecology and agroindustrialization, therefore, is part of the ongoing post-budget advocacy initiatives for the financial year 2022-2023, and most importantly, creating awareness on the agroecology, the parish development model and the budget allocation for the agroindustrialization program in this financial year, and it's the implication to the smallholder farmers. To bring this home, I have with me in studios Joshua Ijuka from PDM Uganda. I have Mr. Caleb Gumisiriza from the Uganda National Farmers Federation. I have Mr. Alan Seblime later, the programs manager from CAPCA, and Rubanga Kenny Patrick, an economist from CSBAG. This program is powered by PDM Uganda. I'm Andrew Chamagero, and you can be a part of this conversation on Twitter. Follow NTV Uganda and be a part of this conversation. But that said, let's first have a video to bring this conversation to context.
Did you know that only focusing on increasing agricultural production does not necessarily solve the challenge of hunger and malnutrition? Did you also know that obesity, food waste, and did you know that only focusing on increasing agricultural production does not necessarily solve the challenge of hunger and malnutrition? Did you also know that obesity, food waste, and hunger coexist in the current food system? Yes, it is true that industrial agriculture has increased production, but at a great cost to the environment and our climate. Do you think this is the right path for sustainably feeding the growing population? Let me show you an alternative path to a resilient, inclusive, and sustainable food system. Agroecology refers to application of ecological principles to design and manage food and farming systems, or simply designing our farms to mimic the natural environment. Agroecology also improves the social relations in the community and localizes the food system by shortening the food supply chain. Agroecology is best understood in three dimensions. As a practice, agroecology refers to the various ecologically sound farming practices that can be applied by farmers to sustainably increase production of healthy food, feed for our livestock, and fiber. Common examples of such practices include soil and water conservation measures such as contours, terracing, mulching, non-chemical minimum tillage practices, and agroforestry, among others. Ecological soil fertility improvement practices such as composting, biofertilizers, green manure, and animal manure application. Urban and backyard garden technologies, e.g. sack, mandala, and vertical gardens. Agroecology as a science integrates both the indigenous knowledge from the farmers and ecologically sound scientific knowledge from researchers to develop innovations and approaches for addressing existing challenges on the farm and wider food system. Some examples of agroecology as a science include participatory action research, participatory innovation development, participatory plant breeding. Agroecology as a social justice movement seeks to uplift the position of smallholder farmers within the food system and promotes respect for people's diverse cultures and food traditions. Agroecology promotes gender equality and empowers smallholders to effectively participate in shaping and challenging policies that affect their right to food both at local, national, and global level. The 10 elements of agroecology developed by FAO also provide a good framework for understanding and measuring the transition to agroecology at different levels. These are diversity, co-creation and sharing of knowledge, synergies, efficiency, recycling, human and social value, cultural and food traditions, resilience, responsible governance, circular and solidarity economy. The multidisciplinary approach of agroecology has led to its increasing global attention as a more sustainable solution for bringing about the much-needed social, environmental, and economic transformation. Agroecology directly and indirectly contributes to the attainment of 15 Sustainable Development Goals. We therefore call upon government and all actors to take deliberate and strategic actions to scale up agroecology for truly sustainable and resilient food system. Did you know that only focusing on increasing agricultural production does not necessarily
Well, now that you know agroecology and how it works, good morning, gentlemen. Good to have you again. I'll start off with Kaijuke. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you faring?
Very good.
You good?
Very happy to be here.
I'm grateful that you're here.
Good morning, viewers.
Yes. Good to have you. Ruban Ken, Patrick.
Yes, Andrew.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
I think we should all join CS Bag. These people were expensive.
Actually, Pelam is our member. So
it's under CS Bag as well.
Yeah, you're part of us.
Well, then
so
good to see you. Caleb,
yes.
How are you doing, sir?
Fine, thank you.
It's an honor to have you again.
Thank you so much. We are also pleased to be here because we are at a time when farmers are, are looking out there. Things are, there seems to be like a strong wind. So but we're here to see how we can calm that wind.
Well done. Thank you so much. Well, let's start off with Joshua. Kindly give us an insight or highlight about Pelham, Uganda. We had a conversation last week where Pelham was, broken down, but there are a couple of those who were not here that day. Maybe to show us a simple insight about Pelham. What does Pelham do?
Okay, thank you very much. Pelham stands for Participatory Ecological Land Use Management. We are a network of civil society organizations and individuals in Eastern and Southern Africa. We're in 12 countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. And Pelham, Uganda has a membership of 66 member organizations that are spread over 120 districts of Uganda. And our core business is strengthening the capacity of our member organizations to promote ecologically sound land use management practices, such as agroecology, to see that we improve livelihoods of the smallholder farmers, of the major land users in Uganda, but at the same time do it in a sustainable way, in a way that we conserve and sustainably utilize our natural resource base.
So keywords for me: sustainable and conserving land use there. For the time you've actually been in business on the ground, are people understanding these two elements, conservation and sustainable use of land?
Yes, actually, conservation entails an aspect of utilization. I think we need to appreciate that as an ecosystem, there has to be interactions between the different components. True. So man depends on these natural resources, such as land, forest, and all that. So the point is, how do we utilize these resources in a way that we do not undermine their integrity, their ability to continue providing us what we call the ecosystem goods, or the freely given goods and services. So agriculture being a major form of land use in Uganda, it becomes very paramount for us as players in the agriculture sector to see how do we transform the agriculture sector in a way that we increase productivity, production and productivity, contribute to food security, of course income security, and at the same time do it in a way that we do not actually continue depleting our natural resources, which actually at the moment we had very unprecedented levels of forest degradation and all this kind. So it's basically seeing how do we strike a balance between utilization and conservation. So sustainability is now the framework that can guide us to that.
Wow.
Yes.
Ruban Ken, when I love the name Ruban Ken, so I'll refer you to that every time we call you that. It means God something, right?
God alone.
God alone. See?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm getting there. Ruban Ken, when you look at all what he's actually saying vis-a-vis what was read in the budget of the financial year 2022-2023, will we achieve what Pelham is trying to achieve on the other side of the ground?
Yeah. I think if you look at the budget that was read this year for financial year 22-23, I think agriculture is one of the core priorities of government, right from the theme of the budget. Because the theme of the budget is full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, and digital transformation and markets. So you can see the keywords, this commercial agriculture. Now, the thinking here is government has put it as a priority, but are they really, when we unpack what has been given to agro-industrialization program, because now we have moved off from looking at agriculture as a sector. We have broadened it up based on the program approach. So we brought in the issue of trade. So now there is industrialization. What you produce should get its way to the market. So when you look at the budget that was read, yes, as a program, it got an allocation of 1.44 trillion. Yes, it may look small, but what should interest me and you is not how much has been allocated. What is the money in there doing? Because that's where our livelihood is.
Yes.
And Uganda prides itself as a country that agriculture is our backbone. Agriculture employs close to 70% of Ugandans. And if you look at our export, coffee is up there in the sky. Still, you see it's agriculture contributing to the driving the growth in this country. But the question would be, are we feeding that cow? That mother cow sustainably, so that we can milk it and we run around with it. Because for a fact, food security is critical.
Very much so.
And for us to be food secure, we need to prioritize agriculture. Let me just give you some hints. How we manage the entire food systems and value chain.
As a country.
As a country. Now that's where the discussion should be. Because the food systems and that value chain means right from the inputs that we have until the end product that lands on your plate. You will be disappointed that the quality of food that we are consuming is not up to standard. Because along the value chain, something has gone wrong. So now, that's where now we want to see budgets that speak to address the issues in the entire value chain. So we look at production, we look at our land ownership. We have fragmented our lands. So are we using technologies that speak to that? Because there are people who define commercial agriculture as tracts of land. I could have an acre of land, but I'm commercially producing. Your productivity levels and what comes out at the end of the day. So yeah, we need to change the discussion. Like commercial agriculture shouldn't reflect that you have tracts of land, you're farming on expanse land, then that's commercial. No, could be smallholder, but the value that comes off that kind of agriculture, it's critical. So now that's where the discussion should be. So if you look at in terms of, let me just give you one critical point. Agricultural extension services. For agriculture to succeed in this country, we need to adequately invest in extension services. Now, we have a huge gap. The Ministry of Agriculture came up with the single spine a couple of years ago. We had, there was also an agricultural extension strategy that was brought on board. That strategy was costed close to 800 billion.
It was expensive.
It was expensive. But in terms of allocation, not even 50% was allocated towards that strategy. So now you can see, now, do we really prioritize
the
extension? Yes, because for you to produce, as Andrew, down there, you need someone to guide you, to take you through, to work with you in this process of production, so that you know you're using the right inputs. You know when to apply those pesticides if need arises. You know how to handle the harvest rate, and you package a good product.
The paper that I saw from the Minister of Agriculture, there was a suggestion, and I think that is what triggered the monies that were allocated to the ministry this financial year, that they want to extend the services at regional level, that we have regional labs, we have regional experts who can actually address the need of the farmers as and when it's actually urgent. Because today, if there is a disease that hits the cows in Mitom, it will take them 3 months to take the sample, bring it this side and back. In those 3 months, the cow is already in Lufla.
Yeah, but you see, as you plan to set up those regional labs, you need the foot soldiers on the ground. You need a functional office for an extensionist, so that they can foresee the problem early enough, because some of the problems can be prevented before spreads across. Now that's where the extension workers are critical. But as it stands now, we have a huge gap. We had, as a country, the Ministry of Agriculture had promised to recruit close to 5,000 extensionists. To date, they still have a huge gap of close to 4,000 extensionists again.
Yeah.
That should be recruited. And this even got worse because in the last 5 years, we had new sub-counties that were created.
Yeah.
So now you find an extensionist now who was in sub-county A, which gave birth to another sub-county. Now it needs to stretch through. So now you see the gap becomes more glaring.
The gap becomes much more.
So once we start addressing that in terms of reprioritizing the monies in agriculture, we look at the extension services, then we look at water for production.
Okay, that is on the broader scale.
Even down with the smallholders, because right now, you can't tell me you're going to rely on rain fully to produce.
Yes, you need irrigation. And
you need to prioritize now irrigation. You want just small schemes, not these huge schemes, just to support the smallholders. So you need an irrigation system in place. But now, if you look through the budgets, our government's prioritizing this. Yes, we do appreciate, as civil society, we appreciate there is effort, but we're saying it's not enough.
Not enough.
Because we have so many farmers out there.
I'm going to get back to you, Patrick. We have a farmer here from the Ugandan National Farmers Federation. Mr. Caleb, I would hear Patrick talk to your heart. He's a converted person to the doctrine you actually subscribe to. Do you believe government has prioritized agro-industrialization in the financial year 2022-23?
Well, two things. Number one, when you hear the talk, and hear the talk from all the levels of government, from cabinet to the specific Ministry for Agriculture, then to lower structures, you get a feel that, well, government is prioritizing agriculture.
But your choice of word, a feel.
Yes, there is a feel.
Yes.
You are right. But when it comes to reality, what my brother was talking about, if you look at the budget, and specifically, not just the figure of the total budget, but you go into the details of what it's going to do, then you start wondering whether this talk, which is trying to give us a picture that there is commitment, will actually deliver what we want. Now, first of all, we want to appreciate that within the National Development Plan 3, the agro-industrialization program is a very good program. The delivery system, the parish development model, is actually a good arrangement.
We have heard it's a silver bullet.
Yes, it's a good arrangement. If you look at it critically again, if you look at, if you take it on the assumptions it has, it is a good service delivery arrangement. But again, when you look at what, for instance, this year we have in the budget, in terms of attaining the agro-industrialization agenda, then it gives you some worries.
Like?
Some worries. Now, let me first talk about, for instance, when you talk of agro-industrialization, what are you talking about? There are two words in it, agriculture and industry. Agriculture is about producing agricultural commodities, but not just producing them. But there are other components that you need to look at, because you are now not speaking about agriculture only, you're also talking about industry. What does industry want? Number one, volumes, and volumes and volumes. Now, my first worry is that we are talking about agro-industrialization, but if you look at the commitment to increase the volumes that the factories, the industry will require, we are still far behind in terms of the budget allocation, because here we are talking about increasing the productivity, that's per unit area. We are talking about even opening more land, which is not there, by the way. So what are we putting in to make sure we are not producing the way we have been producing? You know, there is a thinking that we have no market for the products, but which products? Which products? For me,
they keep saying our goods are substandard.
Very good.
They don't qualify even at a regional level. So that's where the
problem is. Number one, even the volumes. The volumes are very... Let me give you an example. The factory in Yumbe, which is part of agro-industrialization agenda. That factory is about to start. But I can assure you, the metric tons it needs for fruits every day, you are going to look for them in West Nile, you cross to the entire northern region, and those volumes are not there. Okay, so that is where we go wrong. That is number one. So we must put money into increasing productivity so that we have volumes. But number two.
Caleb, before we go to number two, the farmers in those particular areas, if given rightful, facilitation and understanding on how best to increase the production of the fruits the factory is going to use, are the farmers, are our people mentally ready to receive this? Because having the government facility is one, bringing the information to them is another.
Yes.
But are the receivers ready? Is our mindset as countrymen ready to take up this task?
If there is anyone who is willing to learn, it is a farmer. Farmers are interested in learning, but they shouldn't be taken for granted that you come and teach them anything. No. You first show them
the end results.
Exactly. Because they have been confused by many over time. So, yes, they are prepared to learn. But if you come with a complete message that is actually addressing their concerns, their concerns are what? They want to increase production, they want to have enough food for their families, they need to have food to put into the market to get money, but they want also to be assured of a market. So an example of the factory. You have put up a factory, and let me tell you what went wrong. Years back, government started giving out planting materials, including for fruits, to the farmers. Guess what? Nobody explained to the farmers why should they plant these fruits especially. Yet in government, everyone knew 10 years from 2010, there is a plan to set up factories to process these fruits. Now, farmers didn't take the fruits seriously.
They planted them to whom it may concern.
Yes, because they were not so sure. Where shall we sell them? Now, if anyone had linked that and assured farmers that years down the road,
this is
the government's plan is to establish factories, process your
fruit,
then they would be assured of the market. I can assure you, you would have so many farmers with orchards, with big acres of fruits, but you move around. The millions of tree seedlings that were given out since, especially from 2010, you go and trace them. You will be surprised. Now we are establishing factories.
Without supply.
So in other words, you are talking about agro-industrialization. Please, let's first fix information gap. Let's first do fast things first. So there is that huge
mismatch
of information, but it is not something that there is something responsible for that. Okay,
we're coming back to that.
Okay,
the conversation is still ongoing. We're talking about a very pertinent conversation. When you hear this, Joshua, do you feel the energy? I like his choice of words. Caleb said there is a feel from the government. When you read the paperwork, when you read the policies and all, you're like, this is a silver bullet, especially for the PDM. When you look at all this, we want to understand Pelham's intervention in the budget. What do you make of the budget, given that your agenda is agroecology? Does the budget expedite your conversation to the last mile on the ground?
Thank you very much. I actually want to start from where Caleb ended.
The information mismatch.
Yes, that, but also appreciate the parish development model as a pathway. In my opinion, is actually a very good initiative.
Yeah.
On paper, at least to begin with. There is always, there are always discrepancies sometimes with implementation for one reason or another. And it's more to do with a systems thinking. It's a way of looking at things from, with the different complexities that are within the system. Just like Caleb was saying, already there was good information about why the food factory is being put in place. Probably feasibility studies were done by someone which informed that in 10 years we'll be ready. But then you find a bit of a mismatch in terms of how was the execution. So our role as civil society right now is to embrace the parish development model and see how we can complement the efforts of government to make it work effectively. As an approach, for me, I believe bringing services and bringing the focus and the interaction closer to the people is the best way to go towards development. People have to be part of the development. They have to be able to decide which path to take. They have to be able to, so I think it's one way of bringing these services and bringing the interactions closer. Now the question is, what mechanisms are in place to make it effective? At parish level, for instance, what structures are there and how do they link with other, of course, other local government structures of the, say, the extension workers, all the local government system?
There is a sense, Joshua, that the new parish chiefs who have been recruited to run this agenda, that there is a sense of semi-godliness. I don't know whether you've seen this on the ground, but when you go down, if I've not decided, it won't work. And we have attended some barazas, and you still feel that, okay, this one has been at the district or at the parish or the sub-county level for all the years, but there is this new parish who has come with the model delivery tool. They are kind of good. So when you talk about the gelling of the new entrants and the old ones, there is a little bit of friction there.
Exactly, because one, we have to ask ourselves, how is this approach going to work with the already existing system and the programs? How is it, complementing? And because otherwise you end up having unnecessary tension, friction, in a way, sometimes mismanagement. So one of our approaches, what we are doing is creating awareness. Creating mass awareness about the PDM, about the budgeting process, about the relationships between the two, and what is the role? What is the role of the citizen in this context? And that way, also encouraging the participation in these budgeting processes. So we've been organizing local and regional dialogues, both pre and post-budget dialogues, and I want to appreciate the leadership of the Society Budget Advocacy Group because they played a very key role in terms of mobilizing the actors that have an interest in influencing, informing, and collaborating with government in terms of the budgeting processes. And for me, I think the strides are good, but more needs to be done. We need to see how exactly can we see the priorities of the people actually being reflected
in the budget,
upstream, and then how do these actually translate into the programs that actually benefit the people, and how are the people involved in the monitoring
of these projects.
So the parish development model for me is a very important tool that we can explore, but we have to really analyze how exactly is it going to work, and in the context of other existing structures, because like you said, I don't think it's a silver bullet. It must work with other existing mechanisms and structures, which we have actually, as government, which a government has invested in for a very long time. So we need to understand how is it picking up from all these things? How is it consolidating? How is it learning from the previous interventions that all have the same goal? All of us are trying to see a transformation of our economy and all that. So maybe just to wrap it up from my submission, in terms of agroecology, agroecology, one of the core principles and elements of agroecology is really, I would say, circular and solidarity economy. Trying to see how do we bring services closer to the people? How do we bring interactions? How do we localize the system as much as possible? And for me, I think, in terms of the food system, if we have to build a resilient and sustainable food system, which we need right now, because as you can see, with the shocks that we've received, with COVID-19, with the war in Ukraine, already you can see the shocks, the disruptions that are happening. Globally, we are at unprecedented levels of food insecurity, malnutrition, and all that. So preparing that, it has to be from the bottom up, saying that we support these smallholder farmers to transition from the traditional, from the conventional way of farming to a system that is cognizant of both the needs in terms of the need, like Caleb said, the need to increase productivity. And we need to define what does it mean to increase productivity, because increasing productivity doesn't mean that you're going to clear the whole acre and plant maize, you know. No, it means how do we increase the value of the land? How do we diversify in a way that we increase efficiency, recycling within the system, so that also we minimize on the external inputs, you know. And by doing that, through using the locally available materials, we actually, you know, increase our profit margin, because our inputs are a bit less, but the productivity is a bit high. So I think it's high time that we really deepen the conversation on how do we scale up agroecology from the bottom up. And the ministry is doing a good job. I must commend them for that.
Well, thank you so much. Patrick, when you hear what he's saying, does it make sense to you? And I really want to commend CS-BAG. When you went to the communities, one time I passed by my community where they're engaging locals in my area, post-budget analyzing and all that. When you talk to the populace as CS-BAG, what do you see, especially the farmers? Do they feel inclusive in all this, the conversation? Do they see that it is their budget? You know, there is a tendency where you're like, no, this is not our budget. And I've seen that. I've even read it kind of both online and offline. But when you went down in the barazas and the workshops you are holding with some other stakeholders, because comrades, you have to agree with me, we all need a multi-sectoral approach to this. We have to make it happen. What did you see, Patrick?
Okay. When it comes to citizens or farmers owning up to the budget, if whatever is being presented by the Minister of Finance every year reflects to the aspirations of the people down there, as CS-BAG, what we have done over the years is to mobilize as many people as possible, all the different stakeholders, to participate in the planning and budgeting processes of this country. What happens in most cases is very many citizens in this country are not aware of the planning and budgeting processes. And remember, this is an activity which is bottom-up. It has a component which is also top-down. But once it's starting from the bottom, the priorities as planned should originate from the village. The village gets their priorities right. They give it to the parish. The parish development committee, you know, we are now hearing parish development committee. This is not new. It has been in existence. Only that they have not been functional in most places in this country. So the parish development committee ideally is supposed to sieve out these priority needs from the villages, put it together, bring it to the sub-county. Present it to the sub-county and say, parish A, these are my priority needs. The sub-county puts it together, calls for a sub-county budget conference, and share this information with the populace. Like, this is what is coming from parish A, these are your priority needs, and that goes through up to the district budget. However, there's been a mismatch in there. Now, given that very many citizens are not aware of these spaces, they are never consulted. So you end up seeing a parish chief then generating his wish list and bringing to the sub-county. And in most cases, let me just give a context of agriculture. You may find farmers in a given parish, they're in need of water for production. But because they didn't interact with this parish chief, that issue of water may not
be addressed.
But you may find it's a school being reflected as a priority need, or a community access road being reflected there. Yes, we're not saying those are bad priorities, but was the process inclusive? Did they consult? I see. So now that's where the challenge comes in. So as CS-BAG, we have done our best to try to create this awareness, like to engage, interest people so that they participate. Once you participate in these processes, you own it up. So that once you see something being done, you are proud to say, yes, we contributed, and what you see on ground was our effort. But as a country, even if you look at the recent Open Budget Survey report, citizens' participation in budget formulation and approval process has gone down.
Okay. With that, Patrick, I went to read a tweet here. You know, we're digital here. Someone on Twitter already sent a message and said, good morning, Andrew. Thank you so much for this conversation. But you've asked a very pertinent question, and that is about the participation. We, for one, we in Bukakata, we have, excuse me. Bless you. This one says that the challenge we have with us in Bukakata, all those conversations you're saying have been politicized. We are never called because they know someone A or someone B affiliate to a particular political party, and that's us missing out. Shouldn't this be a wrong thing altogether?
Indeed, it's wrong. It's unfortunate in this locality. Yeah. It has already been politicized. But the ideal situation, which is happening in other spaces, yes, citizens are participating. Because, let me just give you, in districts where we are very active, we even mobilize these citizens to monitor these services. They monitor the budget, and they come up with very clear recommendations and say, this is working, this is not working. And we pick up that information. We address it together with the district leadership, and where issues are that requires the attention of the Minister of Finance or Minister of Agriculture, we have even tabled it to them, and we have seen response. Only that where citizens feel a little, where the trouble comes in, access to timely information. Now that's a big gap. Even with the civil society actors, we are also victims.
Access to timely and accurate
information, budget information. Yes. Because we have the budget website under the Budget Transparency Initiative, where the Minister of Finance puts in all the budget documents in there. There's even a call center where you can call right now. There's a person there who will respond to you. But the main issue is timeliness of that information. Because you may need something, but it's not uploaded. I see. So how will you utilize that information to influence some of the things down there? And then again, budget informations are really complex.
And
you would wonder how they
that's where I want to actually pick Caleb from. Caleb, before we left the conversation, you were still giving us a couple of things, and I'll come to that a bit later. When it comes to the vehicles of information, as farmers who actually practice agroecology and agroindustrialization, are we using the right language? Are we using the right channels and vehicles to carry the message to the farmers? And if not, what could be the best channels then?
Are we using the right channels
and language?
To a big extent, the language is not the language the farmers will understand. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was privileged to be in the agro-industrialization program working group, which is convened by the Ministry of Agriculture, which now brings together all actors in agriculture. And one of the things that were discussed was that the new direction of extension services. Yes, we appreciate there are those who use these digital platforms to access information, but how many?
We have 2.2 million active social media users.
Yes.
In a country of 40 plus.
But out those 2 point something, how many are farmers? Exactly. So yes, I'm not saying it's a wrong way to go. Yeah, but look at how many people can be reached with that versus those who actually want these normal extension services. Where you have these extension workers regularly interacting with farmers and the farmer groups to make sure they deliver information. You know, there is also something you cannot replace. The face-to-face language brings out something that your ICT will not bring out. So that's also something we have to reflect on. But there is something else I want to say. When you look at what Patrick was saying, one of the channels which I think the government was trying to fix is through people participation, citizen participation. Give them a space for them to share information, to participate. Now, that's what parish development model ideally would want to bring. That you consult the citizens in each village in a parish. The parish development committee coordinates that information generation, the priorities, the things that affect them. I like the fact that now, for instance, inputs are no longer going to come from NADS and wherever. They have to be demanded by the parish, if they so wish. Okay, that's good because they know what they want.
They need,
and then the committee puts together all these priorities from the entire parish, and they go upwards. Two questions now. PDM ideally started last financial year. Am I right? Yes. This is this now financial year we have just started. It's a second year.
Actualizing.
But let me ask this question. Did we see planning actually come from the village, from the parish, as PDM supposes? 2 years gone. Again, we have had planning come from up. We are
so you feel it's a forceful feeding?
It is still that. We are remaining with 3 years of the NDP3, which NDP3 is the one to be delivered under the parish development model. So we have 3 years of implementing PDM.
2 years already gone, no inclusion.
Yes. So, but if we had actually, and I had thought that this year the planning would really follow the PDM. It would have been a better way of dealing with the real situations, the real needs of the farmers and the other community members. We have lost that 2 years. So what are we expecting? Again, linking it to agro-industrialization. I can envisage that, again, our targets are not going to be met
of
agro-industrialization. And this is happening at a time when the world is facing a challenge of producing food, especially Africa. This would be an ideal time for us as a country, because in Uganda we are unique. We know.
That's true.
We are talking about agroecology.
Our soils, our climate.
Yes, we can talk about agroecology here in Uganda. It is practical. Not in Kenya, not in the neighborhood. It is practical. Now, I had expected that we as a country use this challenge that is happening of food challenges across Africa and the entire world to reorganize ourselves, produce, because we have that competitive advantage. But we don't seem to be focusing on that. If anything, there is a fear. This season that has just ended has not been favorable because, again, we're relying on rain-fed agriculture. And reports indicate between 14 and 40% crop failure is likely to be recorded. So what are we doing? Even in the planning for this new year, we've not, I think we have not planned for remedies to that. How do we fix that?
Just to pick from where Patrick alluded to earlier, the issue of small-scale farmers having access to affordable credit and mechanisms to use in farming, like irrigation. When you look at the pumps of late, there is a strong conversation on renewable energy using solar-based mechanization to, to expand on the farming productivity and all. Are they affordable on the ground? Because government says no taxes on solar-like materials to make sure that the farmers can have access to this.
We appreciate that, no taxes. But look at it this way. 70% of the farmers, smallholder. Okay? Access to finance, specifically agricultural finance in this country, has totally failed. Let me use that word. Has totally failed. Access to finance for agriculture is by big farmers. Now,
not small-scale farmers.
No, that one we can bet on it. Now, let me tell you, for a small-scale farmer to be able to access those irrigation facilities, it still remains a challenge. Now, we had hoped that through the parish development model, the parish revolving fund, maybe that category of farmers we are talking about could maybe access these funds. But let me tell you, the 17 million that was supposed to be sent to the parishes. That's the financial year. Up to now, you ask them. That money has not touched.
It has not reached.
I know there have been institutional challenges forming the circles and whatever, but there should have been other mechanisms through which farmers could have accessed this and utilized it. Now we have started another financial year. I don't know how much we're expecting per parish now, maybe 100, but I hope it comes in time and farmers access it. But there is another issue. How do we ensure that the small-scale farmers we are talking about are the ones to access this money?
Good question.
How do we ensure that?
As a parish.
Patrick mentioned, no, I think it is the person that sent in
the
Twitter
messages.
Unless we separate the parish development model from politics,
we don't want
we are going to go wrong. As a country, can we have at least one time and say, no, let's put aside politics
parties and all and
focus on these sectors of the economy that are going to take us a step further? We all want to move up. We want to see the citizens go, move up. But politics seems to be
taking our center stage of the conversation.
So unless we do that, and there is a fear, I've been moving around, many districts. That concern is actually coming from all corners. And you see the politicians, even what is our take, what's our role? My God, let the parish development committee work. You supervise. That's your role. But don't get so much into these day-to-day things.
Petty issues.
The parish chief is paid for that and his committee.
Yes.
So let them work. But my greatest concern is how do we ensure the parish development committee is not going to be swayed from its core mandate. Now, my proposal is this. As a country, there is a pillar we don't seem to be looking at its importance.
Which one would that be?
The pillar on community mobilization and mindset change. For me, if I was government, if I was in government, last year when we started PDM implementation, we would have put more money in that pillar. We should have, we should have started implementing that pillar that's the year, so that everyone now has been mobilized and have been. And when you talk of mindset change, I see they are targeting these farmers and these people in the. No, you people, let's start from cabinet. We got parliament, we got LC5 chairpersons, and going down. Even
coming to the mindset change. Comrades watching this conversation, it's powered by Pelham, and we're discussing something to do with the poster budget allocation with regards to agroecology and the interventions of inclusions of citizens. Caleb, don't you think the government itself killed the mindset change conversations in the early 90s? Because back then, you and I went from Chaka. We had that. We loved our country. Yes, we were loyal to our country. There was that service where you had to go and offer service to a country before you go into the business. That was taken away. Civics was taken away. Political education was taken away. So if we're telling them to invest a lot in mindset change, we still have a long way to go.
We are correcting this. We are paying a price for the mistakes.
The 1995 Constitution, the architectures of that Constitution, they are from New York, they were from Luxembourg, and they left a clause that says that MPs they have a right to allocate how much emoluments they will need. Now, with that kind of constitution we're running by with, will we really achieve the mindset conversation? If it's, you see, I love the way you take it right from the cabinet.
Yes, it's a fact. Yes. So now you can already see even the mother document, our mother document, the Constitution has issues, but I don't think that's an area you would want to tell anyone to look at again. The interest is somewhere else. But yes, mistakes were made.
Yeah.
Can we continue with the mistakes?
No, we can't.
If there is a realization that mistakes were made and we need to go this way, but the only way to go there is by doing this and this,
so
let
should
it
we.
be. Let it be.
Mm.
And by the way, there is a general kind of will and interest from different corners of in the country, but also different players in economic development, that there is, we are tired of the situation we are in, the economic situation. How can Uganda really talk of hungry people?
Yeah.
That is really something
it's
that
unheard
cannot, yes,
it's
you cannot explain that. And so people, and for me, if people get tired of a situation, that's very good. Let people get annoyed of a situation they are in and say, no, we want to get better. Then that's where you start from. And that's what I'm seeing happening. Farmers are tired.
They need to be engaged.
They need to be engaged. They want to move.
Thank you. Coming to you, Joshua, what is saying in all? Farmers seem to be in a state of, we've had a lot of false hope and things are not changing. And it goes back to the issue of inclusion. Again and again it's coming. I want to spread this conversation a little further. You as Pelham, when you're engaging the communities, did you see the issue of inclusion? And from this context, I'm meaning people with impairments. They were either blind or deaf, or they were lame. That kind of inclusion, did you see that in the conferences or in the workshops or the barazas you were holding? And did you get a sense that these people felt they're part of the budget?
Well, thank you very much. I think, first of all, I want to appreciate my senior comrade for really shedding light on some of these issues we are faced with.
Yes, he did.
Now, when we talk about inclusion, indeed it's a very big issue. Let's talk about the households themselves. Is there inclusion? How do we look at the relations between the men and the women and the children within the household? Because you see, the household is the foundation. Homes are the foundation of a society, you know? And whatever begins from there goes upwards
to the nation.
So, and some of these well-intended initiatives under such a context become even avenues for further inequality. For instance, the parish development model, and with the limited resources, when it comes to prioritization, when it comes to, you know, let's talk of the revolving fund. Who is going to be at the tail end of this revolving fund? Probably will be the already vulnerable and the marginalized, whom we originally intended to benefit through the PDM. So I think we need to really, and that has been a big challenge. And you find that things like gender equality and equity are often paid lip service, often. It's something that is not so much understood, so much appreciated, often just integrated in development frameworks and programs and projects, you know.
But never actualized.
We are mainstreaming gender. You know, gender shall be mainstream. There will be equity and inclusion. But in reality, how are we going to do that? And as Pelham Uganda, we are using approaches. We call them participatory household approaches. One of them is the gender action learning systems. And this approach, we are trying to really challenge the people themselves to do their own analysis on how are their relations, how do they relate right from the households, how is the man and the woman working together for a common vision for a household to begin with, how do they appreciate their roles and responsibilities. Because we've previously had initiatives, for example, where you find maybe you're doing a saving and credit scheme and targeting women. They are the most vulnerable. And you find that on the day of getting the money, the men are waiting just by the corner, waiting because they know this time is my wife is getting money.
It's payday.
It's payday. They are just there with a bicycle. You know, same is happening with harvest. We're talking about agro-industrialization. Who is going to do the harvesting and the selling, and where will the proceeds go? Will it end up benefiting the household? So I think we need to deepen this conversation on equity and inclusion and participation, because someone cannot be included in something they've not participated. They don't know what it's all about.
Of course.
About fair access to information and you know, having, you know, these back and forward mechanisms where we can be able to share information, get feedback, but support communities to embrace transformation that is inclusive generally. So I think for me the parish development model is really one of those pathways where we have an opportunity. All I see with it is an opportunity.
Oh yeah,
which can which can be utilized optimally. And one question I actually want to put forward is, what is the role? How do we envisage the role of civil society, for instance, in this?
Yes.
Because you find that most of there are very many civil society organizations that with so many developments.
And they're working in silos.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Oftentimes, many of us work in silos.
Yes.
So how are we going to harness, you know? For instance, in this parish, there's this PDM with the resources being put in, but this would just be like a seed input. There are so many institutions within this parish. How are we working together towards furthering this PDM? How are we going to be accountable to one another? So all these need investment. Such frameworks need investment. And to me, the government has that core responsibility
to invest,
of ensuring, first of all, recognizing the role of the other actors, private sector, civil society, and then see how do we bring them in the mainstream. Because oftentimes you find when you want to have an interface with someone from the government, it's as though actually you're taking up
you're going to fight.
You know? Yet all we are trying to do is support
the agenda.
All we are trying to do is give that objective opinion of what is going on. Not to say that you're doing something wrong, but to show that there's an alternative that could be considered. You know? So I really think it is a very good opportunity, which, if we are willing to learn from the past mistakes, you know, and like my senior comrade has said, be willing to be tired of the situation and do something different that will actually benefit the people, not because of where they belong, what they subscribe to, but because all of us benefit from a wealthy society. You know, wow. I think we'll have a good future for you guys.
Thank you so much. That is Joshua Ijuka from Pelham, Uganda. The conversation is getting much more deep and heated up. Hit us on Twitter. That is NTV Uganda. The conversation is good. And those watching, I understand a couple of experts are sending in some messages. I'll read a little of those later. Let's keep the conversation going. For now, we're going to go for break. And when we return, more conversation and deep analysis on this and more. Well, effectiveness of the poster budget conversation. This is a program powered by Pelham, Uganda. I'm Andrew Chamagiro, and in studio with me, I still have Mr. Ruban Ken Patrick from CS Bag, and I have Mr. Caleb Gumisiriza from the Uganda National Farmers Federation, and I'm joined by Mr. Alan Seblime from Pelham, Uganda, member organization that is called CAPCA. Be a part of this conversation on the other side. Now, be a part of this conversation and understand this conversation with this video, and later we'll return shortly.
COVID-19 has affected lives globally. Nations and people around the world have gone back to prioritizing health and access to food. COVID-19 has seriously affected supply chains across the globe. High dependence on imported agricultural products and long market chains have made the industrial model of agriculture vulnerable to the COVID-19 pandemic. Movement restrictions and job losses further threaten livelihoods and increase poverty and hunger. In contrast, agroecology applies ecological principles in designing and managing farming systems to minimize the use of external or artificial inputs. Agroecology also shortens the food chain and empowers smallholder farmers to strengthen their relationship with consumers. Let's reflect on the 10 elements of agroecology to better understand how agroecology promotes resilience of our food systems, also in regard to the COVID-19 pandemic. Number 1, diversity. Agroecology promotes a diversified system of production. By supplying and consuming a wide variety of healthy plant and livestock products, the general nutrition is improved, thus contributing to better immune system for the population against COVID-19. Number 2, co-creation and sharing of knowledge. Agroecology encourages integration of farmers' indigenous knowledge with ecologically and socially appropriate scientific knowledge through participatory action research. This approach leads to development and adoption locally appropriate innovations within the food system to guarantee sustainable production and supply of healthy food amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Number 3, culture and food traditions. The production and consumption of culturally appropriate traditional foods, including fruits and vegetables, both cultivated and from the wild, can boost people's immune system to COVID-19. Unfortunately, these rich traditional foods are rapidly being replaced with highly processed modern foods, which is contributing to increasing cases of obesity and non-communicable diseases. Better management and cultivation of indigenous seeds that are adapted to the local soils and environmental conditions can enable farmers to stay in production even with the current movement restriction that limits access to agricultural inputs such as seeds. Number 4. Synergies. Agroecology ensures that all components within the production and food systems are complementary and mutually beneficial. This increases productivity and minimizes dependence of externally sourced inputs, which are currently not easily accessible to farmers due to the current movement restrictions to minimize the spread of COVID-19. Number 5. Efficiency. Agroecology emphasizes the use of as little locally available resource to produce as much food as possible without depleting the natural resources. This ensures continuous production of much-needed nutritious food that is affordable to the population amidst COVID-19 pandemic and its related effects. Number 6. Recycling. There is simply no waste to waste in agroecology. Crop residues and animal waste, such as dung and urine, are fed back into the farming system as either feeds or fertilizers, hence closing nutrient cycle. With limited access to external agricultural inputs, such as fertilizers, due to lockdown, this enables farmers to stay in production, which guarantees our food security. Number 7. Human and social values. Agroecology recognizes the significant role played by men and women smallholder farmers to feed the growing population and works towards improving their social relations and equitable access to production resources. Promoting gender equality and empowerment of women who are major food producers and caregivers increases agricultural productivity and reduces vulnerability of households to effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Number 8. Circular and solidarity economy. This element supports low-cost and fast transfer of healthy and nutritious foods into the hands of consumers, hence supporting shorter value chains. Localized value chain development leads to creation of employment opportunities, especially for the youth, and overall rural socio-economic development. This increases the resilience capacity of rural communities to COVID-19 through better access to essential services. Number 9. Responsible governance. Agroecology empowers smallholder farmers to effectively participate in shaping policies, laws, and practices affecting their livelihoods and holds leaders accountable to ensure sustainable, transparent, and responsive agricultural sector, especially in the face of a crisis such as COVID-19 pandemic. Number 10. Resilience. As the world focuses their attention on the COVID-19 pandemic, agricultural challenges such as climate change and recently the invasion of locusts have affected the already poorly resourced agriculture sector. More to the smallholder farmers whom we rely on to continually produce for the rapidly growing population. Agroecology builds resilience of the food system through harnessing all the above elements to ensure that there is steady and sustainable supply of healthy, nutritious, and locally appropriate food without depleting the natural resource base. Agroecology also contributes to climate change mitigation by increasing absorption of carbon dioxide using the highly diversified farms with perennial plants and agroforestry trees, improves soil health with higher organic matter, also increases carbon storage in the soil while improving crop yield. Therefore, it is clear that agroecology ensures that our food system continues to properly function and guarantee a sustainable supply of healthy and nutritious food for the growing population and the region at large, even when faced with a pandemic such as COVID-19. We call upon the government and all actors to collectively take deliberate and strategic actions for scaling up agroecology as a more sustainable option to recover from the effects of COVID-19 and to build a more resilient, fair, and inclusive food system.
Indeed, a resilient, fair and a level ground for every Ugandan to thrive. You're looking at the effectiveness of the parish development model, in the effectiveness of the agroecology and the agro-industrialization. In studio, I've been joined by my colleague Alan Seblime from Pelham Uganda organization under the Kapla. Initially, we had Joshua Ijuka. Now, we respect the chair of Pelham. That's why it has not been changed. Good to see you, Alan.
Pleasure.
And the conversation was getting a little bit deeper. I want us to look at the implication of the budget of the financial year 2022-2023 to the small-scale farmers. Where you sit, Alan, and those you've engaged on the ground and off the ground, what are the implications here?
Thank you, moderator. Certainly, farmers have commended the government and the allocation of the 628 billion towards climate change, the restoring of the forest cover from 12.5 to 15. That's good, because now you're grappling with the prolonged drought and all that. It's a good contribution. They've also appreciated the parish development model, the 100 million allocation to parish, despite its challenges, but at least they've appreciated that. They also happy to hear that government is putting in money, almost 500 something billion towards agriculture production. However, the skyrocketing prices is really hitting hard. Actually, I noticed that from the sharing I've had, most of the farmers, smallholder farmers who tuned in, possibly they had but did not listen.
Oh yeah.
They stopped on page 6 when the minister now said the challenges with prices are external and
we have no
talked
control.
about the containers, scarcity of containers, talked about the Ukraine war and all the four factors he read out. They said we don't have control. You know, previously farmers used to tune into the budget to say, now what about fuel? What about?
Yeah.
But if they are now buying paraffin at 4,900, which used to sell at 3,000, 3,200, you can imagine. Those who have bought solar, for instance, they are fake. Most of them they're fake. They work for 2 months.
And they're done.
So really the prices, even price of agro inputs are high. Can give just like an example. There's a cooperative we are working with in Bukoma and Simbi. It's earmarked to start an agro shop. But they've put the money on account because we told them you cannot now. What will you buy?
And who is going to buy?
Everything has shot up, almost twice has doubled. So
the purchasing power is equally
so
low.
really it's that's the implication is prices are high, and when government says, as a father, because government is a father, say really our hands are tied, they also then say, what is now father now thinking about? It's a bit challenging.
Wow. Coming to you, Patrick, let's now discuss the PDM in depth. Its practicability. Is it practical when you look at the PDM? Every now and again, you know, the other day on Twitter, I just put out a very simple tweet. And I said, what do you understand by the the parish development model? You should have seen the answers. They said, this is a wording we're hearing from the Prime Minister, from the Speaker, from the MPs, but they don't see it as something they know. We are already 2 years down the road into it. But how is it practical? From the CSO's perspective, is this a silver bullet, the way the President and the team are calling it?
Well, it's indeed a bullet.
Silver, they say.
It's a bullet, as I take it. Okay, the parish development model, for starters, it's one of the vehicles they're using under the National Development Plan 3, which government looks at it as something to transform this economy. They're looking at social transformation. Now, the social transformation, they're looking at it in the aspect of moving the 39% of households, which is close to 3.3 million Ugandans, who are living and are still in the subsistence economy. Now, when you unpack the subsistence economy, we have two categories. Those who are in subsistence agriculture, they're close to 24%. So get 24% of the 3.3 million. Those are people in subsistence agriculture. Then the 15 are those who are in non-agriculture, but they are still within the subsistence economy. So now they're looking at it as that vehicle. We want to move these people to the money economy.
The money economy, yes.
On paper, perfect.
come to ground.
Yeah. So, as Caleb put it, we are now in year 2. The last financial year, what was taking place was trying to set base. Parish chiefs were not there, so government was running around to recruit these chiefs. They're also trying to bring in some other
technocrats.
The technocrats, they set up the secretariat. Then they started talking about the parish development model. Guidelines were brought on board, the manuals are there, but I must say of all the 7 pillars, not all manuals and guidelines are out. So you can see now, it's something which is still changing.
Do you feel it was a knee-jerk reaction of sorts, like were we in a panic mode in
I don't think it was a knee-jerk, because when they were designing the National Development
They
Plan
had time.
3, PDM was already mentioned in the National Development Plan, and we started implementing the plan. So we would have planned better, knowing that once we move into the National Development Plan 3, PDM is core.
Yeah.
So now that's where the planning would have started. But we waited when we moved in and started planning and reorganizing PDM as implementation sets in. So now, on paper, yes, there are ideas within the parish development model which we should appreciate.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, which is good, which if implemented right, the transformation
will come through.
Because they have learned certain hard lessons, like NADS, which was there, and OWC giving out seedlings and inputs. This time PDM is saying we are going to identify the suppliers, certify them. It's demand driven. Go get your inputs from them, which is at least a lesson learned, which to us we see something, don't do the same thing over time. Now, to increase productivity, to me, where I see PDM has some issues which we need to really interrogate further. There are quite a number of pillars.
Like?
We have the pillar 1, agro in the production, productivity, all that storage. Now that pillar has turned out to be one of where the spotlight is. We're focusing on pillar 1, then the pillar on financial inclusion. We are so silent on all the other pillars. There's a pillar on social services. There's a pillar on governance. There's a pillar on the parish information management systems. There's a pillar on infrastructure. There's a pillar on community mindset change, mobilization and mindset change. But anyone you meet on the streets and say,
Agroindustrialization.
No, they look at the revolving fund. The 100 million coming to the parish. Now, that is what...
Tuzifuna D. That's the conversation.
What everyone is looking at. And yet, PDM has other pillars.
Yes.
Which if they are to work in harmony and we create awareness about each and every pillar, we would achieve something. Because now check, we are looking at going full board to implement pillar 1. Because we are looking at now production, productivity. And one of the diagnoses was farmers don't have money. We want to give you the money through the financial inclusion pillar. But one thing that we are silent on, for me to make my farming commercial, to earn from it, where is the business development services?
Wow. Because that's a chain.
That is silent.
Yes.
The commercial officers have to come on board. We need other stakeholders, even within the civil society, private sector, even government, to first prepare these enterprises, good practices in business.
Before giving them anything.
I see. So now that is silent. So business development services is something core. It's quiet. But you only hear money.
Revolving fund.
Revolving fund. But again, when you unpack the revolving fund, we're only pushing on the money component. The things in there,
other resources.
the BDS, the business development services, is part of that pillar. There is also agricultural insurance. It's part of that pillar. But we are quiet on it.
We are looking at the
so how would
fund.
that farmer or that stakeholder get to know, like, this pillar has more than the money? I see.
Patrick, I'm coming back to you.
That's so interesting.
Let me tap into Caleb here. Caleb, we are going into your revolving fund as farmers at the parish level. The business bit of it, from the farmer's perspective, have you in a way organized yourself and have people who deal with business and they come and they do a lot of sensitization and awareness among the farmers to understand the implications of the money that is coming, so that they're mentally ready, technically ready and skillful to actually use the funds correctly?
Unfortunately, we seem to be doing last things first.
Okay, I hear you.
Yes. Now, as Patrick said, and as I mentioned earlier, I've been moving around. But what do you hear about Parish Development Model?
Revolving fund.
Not even revolving fund. Where is that money? Where is the money? Including by those who don't qualify for it, because that money is meant for the people who are outside the money economy.
Yeah.
Now, everyone is focusing on that. Now, as Patrick said, even that pillar of financial inclusion has a big package. Now, for me, what this one speaks to me is that Madam Nabanja, the Prime Minister, has a lot of business to do.
And
why?
And her team.
Yes, and why? Who is not doing their responsibility? Why are we hearing about, at least pillar 1, Maif is really moving out. They have come out with guidelines, they are planning, they have coordinated. And we appreciate, we want to thank them. And as Uganda National Farmers Federation, we want to appreciate them. They are doing something, you are seeing. But where are the other lead ministries in the other pillars? Where is the Ministry of Gender? In fact, as I said, gender should have started last year to mobilize communities, sensitize them not only about mindset change, no, even sensitizing them about the entire parish development model. Why didn't we do this? Now, so people, when you see people only concentrating on the revolving fund, are they wrong? Because they don't
That's what they know.
That's what they know. But things of business development, services, they are all there. And there is some institution that was given responsibility to take that. So if we don't see this coming out, that's why I say the Prime Minister has a lot to do. Let her whip the government. Let her whip the ministries to come out and do what they are supposed to be doing. But the other thing is that I want to state here very clearly that on behalf of the farmers and Farmers Federation, we recognize and appreciate the fact that parish development model is a very good model if we can actually implement it. And you know, we have lost a year, but I know we can do something. But there is one thing that I am finding as a challenge. One is that the government still seems to be saying we are in charge of, I mean, government institutions, we are in charge of parish development model.
We hear that on the ground.
But clearly, it is for all actors in development. So when you say like the Farmers Federation, we are saying here we are. We have structures to mobilize even those farmers you are trying to look for.
Reach out to.
These enterprise groups you are forming, let's work with you to form. I know they are more, they are not looking at agriculture so only, but we can be there. Let's work with you to form enterprise groups in agriculture. Others also come on board, other players. But beyond that, you have formed them. So what next? That's where the mistake is. You are forming them and they think you have formed them to receive.
To receive.
That's a mistake. And that's where we are saying.
You should give the ones who are already organized that they know their need.
Exactly. But also, where this that you have formed, take a step further, prepare them for something else. Business development services. We have, like we are here, if we are belonging to a coffee enterprise group in this location. Okay, someone come and speak to us. How do we make coffee a real business? How do we make our poultry a real business? What are those
best practices?
Okay, so if we don't have the money to take us to where we want to go, then we link to the Paris Circle, okay, and get some money to put in our enterprise and do business. But these other areas are silent. We have formed enterprise groups, and where I have also visited, people who have formed them in many districts, of course not all districts, again they have not clearly told them why the enterprise groups. And when you listen to His Excellency the President, he is very clear. He is very clear and determined on this. He wants people really to move into money economy.
Money economy, yes.
But we are going to let him down. We are going to let him down.
Because we have not understood the implementation
either we have not
strategy.
understood it, or we have not really put in the necessary effort. So, awareness, awareness, and awareness. Let me also tell you something. One of the assumptions or one of the success factors for parish development model is community participation. Now, how does the community participate if they are not
informed? They are not aware.
The awareness aspect is still not yet on the ground. As such, I am not so sure how we are going to make them participate, prioritize their issues, monitor what is going on, because they're supposed to take charge from prioritizing what they want, monitoring what is the implementation, giving feedback to government and all other actors, so that government, because government also needs to learn lessons. So this is where we should have started from. Then we needed to do mindset change, because let me tell you, why are people looking at the revolving fund alone?
The mindset is
mindset that we have, and we created it as a country.
Yes.
And of course, circumstances dictated. So at some point when we had wars, the recovery, you needed support. But we didn't prepare people to get out of
the next stage.
And we are still there, locked there.
We're coming back to you. We're coming back to you, Caleb. We're still having a conversation about the effectiveness of the parish development model in expediting the conversation of agroecology and how it's affecting the farmers on a broader scale. Mr. Seblime, let's discuss the practicability of the PDM in detail to the last mile on the ground. In communities where you've been in Mubende, Mityana, is that road better now?
Yeah.
The road is better, Mubende, Mityana road? Ish.
Still.
Okay. But the farmers you've engaged there and the communities you've engaged, do they understand the PDM?
Thank you, moderator. I think I'll start from where my colleague Caleb stopped. The issue of education about the parish development model is very, very inadequate. Yeah. Farmers, I will tell you, we've been mobilized to form enterprise-based groups. Some are formed for coffee, some for dairy, others, of course, for fish, not for the islands, but here for poultry. Now, after the enterprise groups, then they will tell them, please, now at the parish, we need to establish a circle, a parish-based circle. And then you need to select 3 representatives from each of the enterprise groups to come up there at the parish. These will be now the ones giving you feedback down on your groups. Then from there, you move, of course, up to sub-county where you have the parish accounts control, the committee. But then the challenge all here is the awareness is limited, like Caleb has noted. I will just give you an example. Talking about a parish-based circle. A circle is a cooperative.
It's true.
It's a savings and credit cooperative, by the way. Although people, when you hear circle, they think it's basically a saving group, but it's a cooperative.
Yeah.
Meaning it should adhere to the 7 principles of cooperatives. I can single out 2 principles. For instance, democratic member control, which talks about equality, that members, 1 man, 1 vote. Members in that cooperative should elect their leaders, should determine, should take decisions. Now you are saying, I don't know which criteria they based on to say, okay, 3 from each group, please come and then we can have this constituted.
And how do we choose the 3?
Is there a democratic member control?
No.
Have they decided, like Caleb told you, initially they formed these groups for the purpose of
receiving.
But then we are not seeing the cooperation in them. You get
the idea is when we get the money, we share it amongst ourselves.
Yes, we are not seeing the cooperation in them. The second principle is the third principle is member economic participation, pooling resources. Which resources have they pooled? So please form groups. And then you're talking about a circle. Okay, you register. Okay, the district commercial officer goes ahead to support you register the circle. But is it going to function as a cooperative? Is it going to adhere to the culture of a corporation or a cooperative? Or it's just for the purpose of this revolving fund and then it should be disbanded? So the practicability, this model, and when we talk of circles, it should rhyme with the cooperative principles and the cooperative culture. I will give an example. We've had success under the agricultural cluster development program through Ministry of Agriculture. It's because they rallied on already established cooperatives.
Structures, yeah.
And it's success, actually, I should say. I think the PDM, the promoters should benchmark on RCDP.
Do they even want to benchmark?
Because where I come from, PG and where farmers go to Rakai, they are happy. And you really see from them, so say, please, this is a good program, and moving with it.
Yeah.
Coffee houses have been established, stores, because that was their preference. These guys were marketing, they didn't have where to store, FHU. Now they've gotten the stores. So it came from them. But then when it comes from you, top, bottom, and even the chief, who is at the center,
he's a king of
most of them are not oriented to the level of all the pillars. You talked about financial inclusion. You talk about the gender aspects. We would see, for instance, the probation officers and that team moving around. Are they involved in even the mobilization of the households at parish level? Maybe, maybe not. Because this is the thing now. So it is something we need to understand deeply. But the circle and the cooperative formation should be really guided. And then moving up and up to the sub-county and now the district, they should know the aspiration. They should be really supported to understand that there is something to achieve. We want to see this transform from the subsistence to a money economy.
And then right there, I still want to grab you from there when it gets to the mindset change. Caleb was, before you actually came on, said Caleb was bare knuckle. He said we need a mindset change from the cabinet level to the national, to the grassroots, down at the last mile. When it comes to the mindset change and the awareness mechanisms, how do we expedite that? Because we are not too late. We still have 3 years. Possibly we can fix a thing or two. How do we fix the mindset change that our people from the grassroots can be in position to understand the PDM and its intentions, leaving out all other, incumbencies of political alignments and all, or tribal sentiments and all. But as a country, we move in one direction.
Regarding mindset change, I think the Ministry of Gender should come out, review that pillar, and then come with guidelines. Secondly, civil society should also be brought on board. Many of us are in communities, we're working with the communities, and then and we know the dynamics of communities. Normally communities we share a lot when they see a new person coming in, or when you hear something new is coming. But then they will not disclose the realities. So you need to bring on board a number of players on board so that they can now help government, and then we can move together. Secondly, like I told you, I think we need to move back. We've had a number of revolving fund programs. We had the Ntandikwa.
There are 6.
Bonaba Gaggawale. We went to PEEP, Poverty Eradication Action Plan. Now we had the youth level program. We have some youth are now even running away because we have then Myoga came in, and now as a Myoga was now we have the PDM.
The PDM, yes.
So all of those, the planners and the designers did good work. But then at implementation, what happened? And they weren't their learnings
from all those projects.
From all those, have we picked those learnings? Have we picked some failures? And then, okay, so we improve this and that. Why are we have the achievements, but are we learning of the achievements? Basically, can we take stock of the good practices in all these 5 and then say, okay, we can move like this? So it is very critical to sit and review the implementation of this PDM in its infancy.
Coming to you, Patrick, mindset change. He talked about cabinet, and I love how Alan should have been a reverend, because he takes us back and forth and brings us back. Mindset change. Government always looks at CSOs as sworn enemies. And for lack of a better word, I will use what government usually uses, that it's external influence. And Ijuka, when he was there, said that government needs to wake up to the occasion that you CSOs are not there just to poke and pinpoint what they're doing wrong, but to help the country do better. With that, how do we make these relationships feasible? The CSOs and the government, because CSOs are more community-based and more grounded than the government entities at times.
Okay, thank you. I think in regards to mindset, much as we also saying the Ministry of Gender has not done enough. True. Civil society organizations, the community-based organizations are equally victims because I'm aware that so many of them were equally not equipped with the recent information on the parish development model.
True.
So they also need to benefit from such information before they can officially go and engage the communities. Because if they lack the information, trust me, whatever they're going to relay out there will not be adequate. Now, I think the discussion is changing. From our end as Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, we have taken it as an initiative. We reached out to Minister of Local Government, we reached out to Minister of Agriculture, and we equally reached out to the PDM Secretariat, and we tabled to them.
Wow.
PDM is coming. And if you read through your guidelines, you have given roles to the civil society organizations, right from the working group down
to the last mile.
Initially, the first guideline had given civil society organizations a position on the Parish Development Committee. As of December last year, we had representation on the PDC, which was something we celebrated.
Yes.
But a blink of an eye, we disappeared. So we are nowhere now on that committee.
Yes.
But all is not lost.
Yeah.
Much as we are not on the committee, we have taken an initiative. We have reached out to the ministry. And I'm glad to report, we met, I think a couple of weeks ago, we met Honorable Magezi, and we tabled to him, like, look here, civil society has a role on the PDM. He appreciated and welcomed that initiative. And as such, we are now planning to do out a readiness assessment. We are aware that HUBOS, together with the Secretariat, is mapping out households in the communities. But as civil society, we have also taken that initiative. We want to go and assess the readiness of all entities, all the stakeholders who are in one way or the other going to benefit from the PDM. We are going to assess their readiness.
That's nice.
So we are going to move around the country, interact, go and get that first-hand information. Then we come and table to the ministry and say, look here, from the citizen side, from the CSOs, this is what is on ground. We compare notes.
That's nice.
So that we want to have this narrative because it's something that is going to benefit everyone.
The entire nation.
So we shouldn't look at it as a government initiative. Civil society has a big role to play. So we are actively mobilizing our members and equally giving them this information. We are building their capacities on
to ask the critical, rightful questions.
PDM, what is it in PDM? So that as they engage with the community, they also relay that information so that everyone is brought on board. Because once PDM fails, it's going to affect also our work. Because these are the people we are also serving.
Of course.
So we want to see their lives change. And if there's an initiative already coming from government, we need to support and try to change. Where there are glaring gaps, we tell them, please, here things are not going right. Let's try to
and they
change.
should embrace it in the spirit it comes
with a good because without that kind of checks, because for example, first we monitor the budget. Now if you go down to monitor and PDM right now, we are looking at agro-industrialization, which is where the spotlight is. We want to see, because it's government money, we contribute to that. You and me, from our taxes. Then the 1 trillion now has been allocated. Each parish is getting 100 million. Is that money working? Because in the subsequent financial year, we are yet to contribute to that basket. So we need to pick interest. Everyone has to monitor PDM.
From the village level.
From the village level, because you contribute to it directly through your taxes.
Wow.
So you don't want to see your money go to waste.
Okay. We're getting some feedback. We really want to thank all of you who are part of this conversation. Edison on Twitter says, congratulations. Now, this is a people's program. Well done, comrade. Oteba Sefa says agro-industrialization and PDM are well-thought strategies. However, the delivery mechanisms have to follow suit, or else it remains a well-designed paper. The technical structures at the parish and sub-county level need full empowerment to deliver the required services and outcomes. Well done, comrade. Then Bijirencha Joffrey, apology if I've not sounded your name right, but he says that it is not politics, but the issue is the government always comes up with good program, but with poor implementation strategy, which gives chance to implementers to confuse the beneficiaries and eat the money without government realizing it. Thank you so much for your feedback. We're still getting more feedback coming through. This one says, Andrew, thanks for the program. Me, I'm already confused about the PDM from my parish. My parish chief says something else. Nabanja on media says something else. My MP says something else. Yeah, well, that is his one. Well, I think this conversation will throw more light. Thank you. These are feedback from our colleagues on Twitter, and these are people who can afford to tweet back, but there are quite a couple of those. Coming back to you, Caleb, there is something called timely funding. If we're to look about the agro-processing and industrialization, do you feel that the PDM is going to deliver the the timely funding? Because there could be funding, but when it comes when you're out of season as farmers. And there could be funding that comes when it's too early and people are going to waste it. Do you feel we have managed that expectation with regards to funds?
No. For instance, we've talked about the money that was meant for the parish circles for last financial year, which actually money, first of all, as you indicated, only 7 million
reached the ground,
but didn't even reach the circle.
Yes.
So it was not accessed.
Yes.
What it was supposed to do was not done.
Yes.
But remember, with agro-industrialization, there are certain things you want to see, you want to build over time. The quantities you are talking about cannot be built within one season. No.
Volumes.
You create a situation where people start appreciating the fact that they have to increase production. This season I have increased production. I have seen the benefit. The next season I will even increase more. I will even invest more, like that. But there is that trigger money that we are talking about. There is that trigger money that you want to put in the different ministries that are scoring into agro-industrialization. Now, unless that money comes timely and they do the right things they are supposed to do towards agro-industrialization agenda, then you have missed the point. Now, when you look at all these entities that are contributing towards agro-industrialization agenda, Ministry of Agriculture with its agencies, Ministry of Water and Environment, that's where you have water for irrigation, etc. First of all, the money that was allocated to them, even the HE noted that it's little money. But even what that money is for big scale irrigation. And as we said earlier, no. These small scale farmers, I think will not benefit from those huge large scale irrigations. They will benefit a few that are near them. What we want is, how do you make sure that everyone or most of the farmers can access, and accessibility has two factors. Number one, the real access, but also in terms of affordability. Now, so I know that of course the parish revolving fund cannot procure such things. It's little money. But there are those other entities, the ministries, that have also a vote to support such initiatives. If you are talking about access to machines and you are not giving the Ministry of Agriculture the money in time to procure tractors, and I like the fact that they had started on to support farm groups and cooperatives with tractors. This is what we want if you are talking about accessibility. So many farmers accessing a tractor, utilizing where we I was part of this program, and where we gave out those tractors, things changed.
Wow.
Things changed, but if I tell you that it took about 2 years from the time of procuring the tractors to actually giving them out, then you lose a point.
Timely delivery.
But we picked lessons, I believe, from there. So, timely release of funds, but also putting the funds into the right things that will trigger agro-industrialization is very key. Some factories, for instance, the feasibility study takes so long. Why? You planned for it, but you didn't allocate the necessary funds. So it defeats your agenda.
Okay.
But also there is something very important. For me, this whole thing of PDM and agroindustrialization will only succeed if everyone is playing their roles.
Everyone. From the person at the household level.
The households, the leaders at different levels. But there is another key player that we are not emphasizing.
Who is that?
These farmer groups or cooperatives or these civil society organizations and associations. You people, they play a very important role. A very important role. You are going to put in money as government. You are going to do this. But let me tell you, unless the civil society, the farmers organizations, the groups themselves come in and mobilize, you are going to realize it. There is another element to that. Even the I don't, for instance, if I belong to a group, I don't need anyone now to come and tell me how to about business development services. The group itself
has already done that.
But I don't want then when the group starts doing it, then someone to come and say, "This is my work. Why are you doing that?"
Oh, yeah, that clash.
So there must be that kind of harmony and working together. Finally, for me. I am going back to where I said mindset changes for everyone. I pray that our friends at the Ministry of Finance listen to people on the ground, but also keep in touch to make sure things are happening. That is why you at times have delays, and without factoring in what are the impacts of the delay
on the people on the ground.
These programs, to fund these activities.
Thank you so much. Alan, the other day I heard the president saying we need to change something in the PDM. These people in PPDP take long, it's affecting the agenda. And the Minister of Finance, under the procurement, they came up with portals just to make these things happen very faster. But for purpose of this conversation, Alan, as we're moving forward, what are the parting shots from you? What should we do as citizens? What should government do? And holistically, where do you see this going?
Okay, thank you. Regarding the partnership development model, I will first begin by re-emphasizing what I noted. The learnings for the past programs are very critical to reflect on and also to act on them, because they say if you've learned something, it will be then some kind of madness if you repeat the same the same thing over and which. So it's very critical. Secondly, I've also heard voices. I had some farmers who were asking me what happened to the Emioga associations, which had been formed and all that, because now Emioga was there, and now PDM comes in, and then we've had that some resources, of course, will be channeled towards PDM, even from UEP and these other. So it's very critical that we educate. Civic education is very important. People to know the direction. Now this PDM, yes, Emioga is there, but maybe we've done this. These are the changes. Second, it's also critical for accountability to inform the masses of the reality. We are talking about 100 millions today, which is good money. But then when you divide it in a parish, there are parishes which have almost 20,000 or so. Even if they form groups, it's still small. But then, unless I'm wrong, it's from that money that administrative costs are going to be charged. I know the parish chiefs have been recruited almost most of the parishes, but they don't have infrastructure, they don't have the equipment. You hear that the following day that the same money they've charged the administrative costs and also the transfer charges, and actually maybe out of 100 millions, maybe 60 reaching the beneficiaries. So unless the communities are told about all that, they will still say these guys ate the money. And then you get it. So it's very critical to openly share what's happening, what's planned, and the reality on ground, especially you are accountable, you account to the people. Last, like I noted, that PDM should also benchmark on programs which have performed well. I singled out SCDP. SCDP has not been across the entire Uganda, but at least the cluster, the aquaculture cluster development program has performed. It had a component of co-financing for the inputs and also the infrastructure development. But when you analyze it, it has really performed. So let us benchmark on those which have performed. Lastly, as I talk, we need also to understand that we have islands. Yesterday I was talking to the people in islands, and they were telling me that in our case, I think we shouldn't be treated the same as you people in
the mainland. Because
the guy was telling me, for instance, that, you know, now they allocated 17 million to the Kalangala. PDM is here, they've recruited the chiefs. But then he told me that, you know, that out of the 7 sub-counties that form the island, we only have averagely one fisheries officer. He singled out, for instance, Fumira. He told me Fumira is sub-county, has 17 islands. But the Lord, we have only 2 fisheries officers.
That's alarming.
To move the 17 islands. No boats. They hire boats from the fish.
Even the boats, if they are there, the petrol.
They just hire them. So he was telling me we're struggling to collect revenue. Now PDM is here. Parish chiefs have been recruited. So what is so because I was telling him about mindset change. So for us, it should be continuous, because even these are transient communities, guys keep on migrating from one island. So the design for especially the islands should be very specific and maybe unique in a way.
Fit for the purpose.
Yes. So it was.
Thank you so much.
It's very critical.
Thank you so much, Alan. Patrick, in 1 minute, what are your parting shots?
Wow, thank you. I think for me, what's critical? Data. Let's have a clean database that has a clean registry of each and every Ugandan, especially those who are going to benefit much from the PDM, so that there's inclusion. Because once that is not done, we are going to see other beneficiaries
will actually take it
who are not intended will end up benefiting. And also the community should pick interest and monitor this, because it's their money.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, good friends who have been a part of this conversation from here to across the border. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. And the government entities, we had a couple of generals watching and listening. Well, take these conversations, I understand they were quite uncomfortable to some people, but we need to have this kind of alignment if we're to have the paradigm shift we need in our communities. This program was powered by Pelham Uganda, and I really want to thank my panelists. Earlier on I had Joshua Ijuka from Pelham Uganda, and we had Ruban Ken Patrick from CSBAG, and then we had from the Farmers, Uganda National Farmers Federation, Mr. Caleb Gumisiriza, and finally Alan Seblime, still from Kapka, that is under Pelham Uganda. Great conversation, and I want to thank you, the great viewer. What we have had is information you need to run with to your community. Your call to action is to monitor these funds as and when they're released to your communities. But if you're already in the money economy, allow other Ugandans who are not in the money economy to get on board, that we can have a transformative country. I'm Andrew Chamagedo. Good afternoon.